Hi, welcome back to our group assignment presentation. Our topic is combating COVID-19 outbreaks, and this is the part B of our assignment that we will be presenting today. Before we pursue, let me introduce our group members. It comprises of Azwa bin Kamaruddin and myself, Hon-Loong. As mentioned earlier, this is actually the part B of our assignment submission, which is touching on the management of data using Hadoop, data warehouse, or data lake. Previously, we have talked about the part A of how we're going to acquire the data from the websites using the web crawling method that we have programmed by using the Python language and the Beautiful Soup package that we have installed. In this particular session, we will drill down further in terms of how we will actually demonstrate to everyone here in terms of how we're going to manage the data that we've acquired from the websites, and subsequently we will pursue on with the rest of our milestone as indicated in this particular slide. Let us quickly go through the background of this assignment. As this is actually a continuous from our previous part A submission, where we have acquired the data by crawling to the websites, our group basically in this particular assignment will be setting up a storage repository so that we can proceed in processing the data over and over again to extract more data as we learn more about the content. In this particular assignment, what we will also be demonstrating to all is how our team have decided to set up our Hadoop data warehouse leveraging on the Google Cloud Platform, or widely known as GCP. We will also be using Hive as the SQL-like scripting language interface in order for us to query and analyze the data that we've acquired from the websites which we have actually stored in our Hadoop HDFS data warehouse. And all the code that we will be using for this particular assignment are also being posted in the GitHub link as shown in this particular slide. So let us quickly go through some of the screens in terms of how we have actually used Google Cloud Platform and in setting up the environment. As you can see in this particular slide itself, this is actually the page of the project dashboard that we have created from GCP for our assignment. In order for us to configure Hadoop and Hive data warehouse in GCP, what we need to do first is to navigate towards the left corner of the dashboard, and there is actually a navigation menu for us to click on. As you can notice, once we actually click on the navigation menu, you'll see lots of features, services, applications, as well as functions that we can actually create from Google Cloud Platform itself. For this case, what we're going to do is to demonstrate to all how we're going to configure the Hadoop and the Hive data warehouse cluster itself. And in order to do so, what we will do is to scroll down towards the big data section, as you can see from the left corner, and then click on the data prop to create the cluster. The next screen that we will be seeing from GCP is to enable the API button so that we can proceed in creating the cluster itself. Once the provisioning of the Apache Hadoop is initiated in GCP, as you can see from the screenshot on the left-hand side of this particular slide itself, there will be a small windows that will pop up to say whether you would like to create the cluster. And if we have chosen to do so, all we need to do is to click on the Create Cluster button. Once you have clicked on the Create Cluster button itself, you will see there are various different settings and configurations that we can actually key in as part of the settings that we would prefer to have. And in this particular project and assignment itself, our team has decided to name our cluster as cluster WQD7005, and what we have also done was to change the region and the zone towards the region that is closer to where we are located, and that is actually in Southeast Asia. Most of the rest of the settings, we have actually leave it as default, with the exception after clicking on the advanced options, as you can see from this particular middle screen itself, it will actually blow up another options for us to select. And in this particular case, our team have decided to enable the access to the web interface so that there will be a component gateway for us to access towards the services and the platform that we have initiated. Once we have done that, we can actually click on the create button to proceed. It will take a while for the clusters to be created, and as soon as it's being created, you will be able to see a green checkbox as shown in this particular screen itself. To verify whether the clusters are provisioned accordingly, what we can do is to click on the cluster name, and it will show the Hadoop services as shown in this particular screen that you can see. And in order for us to really go down to look at the respective master and worker nodes, we can also click on the VM interface of the cluster. And what it will do, it will also show you whether the masters and the worker nodes that was created is running accordingly. And if it's actually running as per plan, you will also see the green buttons that will be checked on the left-hand side of each of the nodes. And in order for us to test out the VM instances, what we can actually do is to click on the VM instance tab. And on the far right of the table itself in this particular screen, you will see an SSH pull-down menu option for us to select. And what we can do here is to open in browser windows mode for us to pursue to the next screen. When we actually click on the SSH open in the browser mode, basically the next screen that you will be seeing from GCP is that it will be connecting to the VM instances that we wanted to access to. And this process will start kicking in. And once the connection is done, we will be seeing the command line screen as what you can see from this particular presentation slide itself. Rather than going through the screenshots screen by screen, what I would like to do is to also quickly share with you the actual GCP platform that we have actually created. As you can see, this is actually our main project dashboard that we have created for this particular assignment in the Google Cloud Platform. We have actually named our project as WQD Data Mining Assignments. And if you recall earlier, what we have also done was to create our cluster of Hadoop that we have generated. And I can actually show you by clicking on the cluster interface itself. And as you can see, this particular option is showing that the cluster is running accordingly, and that's why you see the green checkbox here. When I actually click on the cluster node name itself, remember just now I've actually enabled the web interface, and this is exactly why I'm actually doing so, because from the particular dashboard itself, I will be able to see all the respective resources, the Hadoop services that I've already initiated. And over here, you can see, the yarn memory, yet another resource negotiator. I can see my node managers. I can even see, whether my HDFS capacity is being utilized fully or not, and also the CPU utilization. But if I really want to look at the web interface of each of these services, this is where it will allow me to select the options. And Yarn Resource Manager is as what I've actually opened earlier. is where it will show you all the resources, whether all your applications are running accordingly. And this is the Hadoop platform that we have set up for our team. And if I want to look at my name node of the Hadoop that we have created for our group assignment, I can actually click on this link, and basically it's actually showing me our actual Hadoop environment that we have created. As you can see, the overview of the cluster of the name node. And I can also look at, based on the data that I've actually acquired from part A of the assignment. What we have done was we have actually pushed it over into our data warehouse, and we have actually stored it into the user directory, and you can see the files are all being stored here. So this is just a few glimpses of the snapshots of what we can actually use Google Cloud Platform for. There are various different options, as I've mentioned, when you click on the navigation menu. As you can see, there are various different functionality that we can choose, be it from the compute, storage, networking, operation, tools, big data, artificial intelligence, so on and so forth. What I can also do is to show you, based on the data that we've acquired, how did we actually store it and push it into our Google Cloud Platform storage. And what we have done as well in this particular assignment, we have actually created a bucket to store all the data that we have acquired. And over here, we have actually created a bucket known as WQD7005DM COVID-19. And this is where you see, the first stop of where the data will be stored once we have actually crawled the data from our Part A assignment. So these are just some of the features that you can see. So let's quickly get back into our cluster. So I'll scroll down to our data prop. I'll go back into the Hadoop environment by clicking on the cluster name. And then I can actually select on the VM instances, choose the SSH pull down menu as I've actually presented earlier, and then open it in the browser window. As you can see, right now, what GCP has done was to create the instances to connect towards the VM instances that we wanted to connect to. And this is exactly the screen, as you can see, that I've created in the slide. To make it easier for you to view, so what I've done is I've just put it here on the side so that at least you know what I'm typing. Now, this is actually the SSH command line screen that you can see from our GCP setup that we have done earlier. And in order to ensure that we have our Java installed correctly and our Hadoop installed correctly, what we can do is to check out whether our Java has been installed and what are the version that it's using. And we can even check the Hadoop version that we have. So as you can see from this particular script itself, it's already showing that both Java and Hadoop are installed correctly and accordingly in our platform itself. So in order for us to actually go through the next step, which is to leverage on the Hive SQLite script for us to load the data that we have acquired from our web crawling effort just now, we can actually use Hive command to go into the Hive shell mode. But before that, in order for me to prove to you that the data that we have crawled is already stored in the HDFS of the Hadoop environment that we have set up, let me actually use this command and type it into our command line so that you can actually see the files that's being stored. Over here, this is our HDFS data warehouse that we have set in our Hadoop environment, and the files are stored, which is exactly the same view as what you have seen earlier from the web interface that I've shown to you earlier from the GCP platform. So over here, you can see these are the files that is already being created. Now, if I wanted to put in more data that I've actually acquired, from the website, which I've actually stored into my storage bucket in GCP, I can actually use the HDFS command, like what I've actually gonna type in here. So basically, what I'm gonna do is to copy another data set that I've actually acquired from the website, and I'm gonna push it into my Hadoop HDFS data warehouse. By doing so, all I need to do is just to use this HDFS command to copy the file that I've acquired into my Hadoop HDFS data warehouse itself. There you go. And in order for me to check again if the file is being uploaded and pushed into my data warehouse, again, I can actually look at the data warehouse through command line, and as you can see, the recovered file is being stored here. So let's actually go to the Hive shell right now and start doing some analysis and queries in terms of the data that we've acquired. In order to do that, all I need to do from the SSH command line is just to type the Hive command, and basically the script of the Hive shell will be loaded, and there you go. As you can see, right now we are in the Hive shell environment. So basically, from this point onwards, what we're going to do is going to use all the SQLite command that we have learned before and use it in this Hive SQLite script for us to create the table, to store the data that we have acquired from the website, and do some query on it. In order for me to actually create a table, as you can see over here on my right hand side, this is actually the command that we're going to use the create table script, SQLite script to create a table for us to do a further query. To save the time for me to type one by one, so what I'm going to do is to copy and paste, and ta-da! As you can see, the table is now being created. But again, even though the table is created, the table is empty right now. And in order for us to load the data that we have actually saved into our data warehouse into this table, what we're going to do next is to use this command to load the data from our data warehouse in Hadoop and put it into the table. There you go. As you can see from this command line itself, it's already showing that the table is created and the data that we've acquired, which is stored in our data warehouse, is also being uploaded into the table. So what are we going to do next? Obviously, what we can do right now is to start creating some of our query statement. And let's start with the simplest method of how we're going to do our query, which is actually just select star, which we normally would do as the first step. And when I actually key in this statement, as you can see from the screen itself, basically what it has done is to show you the data that we've acquired is right now being loaded into the table. And this is where we can actually start using our Hive SQLite script to do some further analysis to understand more about the data. And let's say we want to understand more about the case date that has happened in particular to Malaysia country, and whether the number of cases has increased. So what we can do is to just use this very simple select SQL script to do the query of the data that we have uploaded into the table. And over here, what we like to see is just on the case date as well as the country, which is equal to Malaysia. And there you go. Oh my God, as you can see, when the day goes by through the time lapse of the data that we've acquired, the number of cases in Malaysia has increased tremendously, from a double digit to a triple digit number of cases that's being reported right now. So this is actually the overall demonstration of how we have demonstrated to you that we have uploaded the data that we've acquired from the website into our data warehouse, and how we use the Hive query actually to start analyzing the data that we have acquired. And as you can see from this particular presentation slide itself, this is just a snapshot of what we have shown to you earlier live from our GCP platform in terms of how we actually create the table. Next, how we load the data that we have acquired from the website that we have stored in the data warehouse into the table that we're going to do query using Hive SQL-like script. And then we can actually test out the SQL query from the Hive shelf itself. And these are some of the results that we have seen earlier from the live demo that we have shown earlier. So in summary, in this particular assignment, what we have shown is we have acquired the content from a large number of data sources. And obviously, once we have acquired this data and contents from various different websites, we need to also start preparing a repository for us to store this data and ingest it into the tools that we can use to do our further analysis. And then also, when you see from the demo that we have shown earlier, while data scraping can happen in any data array and can be done manually, however, do take note, as what we have shown in our part A of the assignment, the web scraping or crawling takes place only on the web pages and is performed by the special robots, or it's in automated manner known as the crawlers or the scrappers. And in this particular assignment, what we have learned very importantly as well is we need to start planning ahead. How we're going to choose an agile, a flexible, and adaptable data repository so that we can rapidly adapt to changes with the application stacks of choice that we're going to choose. However, there are different characteristics that we need to consider when choosing the repository to manage the data that we've acquired. And as you can see in the table below, in these particular bullets, there are various different characteristics that we need to look into to decide whether we're going to use data warehouse or whether we're going to use data lake. And some of these characteristics includes the data type, if there's a schema that's actually attached to it, whether there's actually a price and performance which is part of the requirements that we have set for our assignment by the team. What kind of data quality that we would like to acquire and maintain and store. And who are the users that will eventually use the data that we've acquired into our data warehouse or data lake. And lastly, what are we going to use it for, and what are the mechanisms for us to analyze the data. And in summary, based on what we have learned in this particular assignment, it really depends on the requirements. Typically, it will require both the data warehouse and data lake to serve different needs and use cases as what it has illustrated in the table above. So with that, I hope you enjoy our group presentation. And shall there be any further questions, we look forward for you to ask us during the class. Once again, thank you very much.